Hello, I'm Andrew Tidwell,
And I'm Matthew Tidwell.
and this is Mind Map. So, our first topic for today is something that I found while we were planning this episode. It's,
So I'm looking at this and I'm very, very, very confused because we have the little show notes here and it says Snuggies are blankets, not clothes.
so this
What?
is, this is,
I haven't looked at the article yet, so please explain to me.
so
what
I'm just going to
this is.
read this article by The Verge, just maybe a paragraph or two. So, the U.S. Court of International Trade has ruled that the Snuggie should officially be classified as a blanket. It's a tax thing. Sorry to anyone who considers a Snuggie their special robe.
Aw, dang it.
Snuggie's obvious, you say? Why would anyone ever consider a Snuggie clothing, according to the Department of Justice? People have worn a Snuggie during pub crawls. Let that sink in. The legally acknowledged supporters of Snuggies as clothing are the same goobers who piss on the subway during Santa Con.
I don't think if I saw someone wearing a Snuggie out in public, I would be legitimately concerned because that probably means they aren't wearing anything else.
But if you got a brown Snuggie, and then attached in the back, you could be like
I
a
can say it
ghost
doesn't cover the back at
or
all.
something.
So you have this front emperor's
Thing.
outfit, and then in the back your butt's exposed and your back.
Yeah, but I mean, would you ever not wear anything under a Snuggie?
I mean, I'm just saying, if you classify it as clothes, pants, you have a t-shirt, so you don't wear anything under your t-shirt.
I guess.
So if you imagined it as a long sleeve or maybe a jacket, I could see that maybe. But I guess that's still.
The fact that somebody had to think about this though,
Yeah.
for tax reasons.
Well, I mean, because they advertise it's not a blanket, it's not a.
Well, it's a
not a-
Snuggie.
it's
There's
a
nothing
Snuggie.
that a Snuggie.
It's just a
Can
it's
classify
a
as,
blanket
really.
with sleeves. That's how everyone.
Yeah, I guess
refers
that's-
to it.
Yeah, I guess so. Honestly, I haven't seen Snuggies in the wild in a long time.
I haven't seen them in probably since middle school.
Yeah, I haven't seen them in. Do they sell them at stores still, like Walmart maybe?
I feel like they should, but I don't think
Mhm.
they do.
I haven't seen any.
I feel like they
why.
were a fad for a while and then they just kind of disappeared. But the fact that
They're not a fad though, because
I mean, this is a
Snuggies
recent
are
article,
actually really
and
awesome.
they're actually really useful. So I don't understand what the mentality is. Where's Snuggies? Where have you gone? I need you.
Yeah,
I need
I don't want a pink Snuggie anymore.
No, I want a camo one now.
This picture has a really cool not plaid. I don't know. Has whatever this
Like a
is.
checkered.
And I wouldn't mind this color
I can't
as
see
a
this.
Snuggie.
I'll pull it up on mine.
No, I would not.
No,
look
that's
like this guy.
that's like a plaid. That's like a tartan.
That's
tartan.
that's the word I'm looking for. Tartan.
However you pronounce
Yeah,
it.
I think it's tartan.
Tartan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
wouldn't
that
mind a
kinda style.
Snuggie that looks like that compared to the pink one that I.
That has
Use it
you
every
go
once in a
out,
while.
you go golfing for the day, and then you come back, just sit in your lounge with your pipe and on your oak desk.
Watch the
just
Golf Channel all day,
watch Golf Channel or Downton Abbey or something.
which isn't a thing anymore.
Well, we'll get to that later.
What?
I
What? We're not getting to that. What are you talking about?
didn't know that. Is Downton Abbey actually ending?
Yeah. No, it's ended a while ago.
Did it?
Yeah.
I never heard about
It
this.
ended years ago.
What?
Maybe not years ago. It was either last year or the year
How did I
before.
not find out about this? Mom watches it all the time.
Yeah, she watches reruns. 'Cause it's the only show that
What?
PBS has really had that was super successful.
What madness is this? I could have sworn that there were new things still going on.
No.
This is a revelation for me.
Yeah, no, it's no longer happening.
What happened?
Where have you been?
I've been in my Snuggie.
Yeah, hiding in the Snuggie.
Hiding in my Snuggie. I actually don't own a Snuggie. We own one as a family
And
that
it's
we
pink.
got as a gag gift from my mother. But
And it's pink.
it's like a pink.
And I think I'm
Snuggie.
the only one who has actually extensively used it.
You probably used it the most out of all of us.
There's so
Followed by probably mom and then me and then dad.
Yeah, there's
So.
a specific use case for the Snuggie though, because when you're video gaming, you don't want your arms to be under the blanket when you're video gaming, because then the
'Cause you
blanket.
can't see the controller.
Well, the blanket gets in the way of the thumbsticks and everything, and it makes things hard. But when you have a Snuggie, your arms can be outside of the blanket, and you have full control over the controller, but your arms are still covered and warm.
Which is good. The thing is that I almost sometimes I'll be playing games and if it's really cold, I'll be I almost want gloves.
Mm-hmm.
If Snuggies had a glove attachment to them, that would be hilarious.
I mean, you could technically just wear gloves with the Snuggie.
No, but I'm saying
'Cause it's big
because the Snuggie already has sleeves on it. If they just went a step further and add extended it a little bit further and made mittens, Snuggies with
Snuggie
mittens,
mitten edition.
mitten edition, I would winter Snuggie. The winter edition.
The winter snuggie. I'm
Part of
imagining
the-
that as the next Marvel movie.
I guess at that point it'd start becoming clothing, and they couldn't go off the blanket thing.
Well,
anymore.
no. So the reason why it's considered a blanket and not clothing is because it lacks closures. So the snuggie lacks closures in the back.
Yeah,
And so that is what prevents it from being clothing.
yeah, because it's exposed. Because like most clothes is like usually
Mhm.
like round, or you can either get into it or it has like some sort of latch to seal it off.
Well, it has to, for it to count as clothing, it has to have a latch or something to clasp the two pieces of fabric together.
I mean, underwear doesn't have that, but that's still considered.
Well, because
Clothing.
that seals to your
Yeah,
body
like I said,
somewhat.
it seals to your body,
That's slightly different.
and you can't say that with
But-
a snuggie because it's
But like,
a blanket. with
well,
sleeves.
you would consider the thing that the snuggie would alternatively be considered as is a jacket or like a coat. That's what you could alternatively
See,
consider.
I guess
it
I could
as.
see like it's like a backwards coat is the thing, is what
Yeah.
a snuggie is, because it's
And
instead of
coats have clasps.
oh, that's true.
That's why. or zippers and snuggies.
What about
have
like
neither.
those knockoff snuggies? Because there's some snuggies that have like bathrobe style like ties on the back.
I don't know if that would consider.
Would
I think the tie.
would those like knockoff snuggies be considered?
I think those would be considered clothes.
Because at that point they're just a
Mhm.
robe.
But those are probably Chinese knockoffs, and they don't care about any sort of
Probably.
U.S. taxes.
You only need the OG snuggies.
Only get the originals,
No, it's all or nothing. You got to get the best snuggies.
the best tartan snuggie.
You got to. It's like when you go to like if you went to like New York and got like fake Gucci bags and stuff like that.
You too can look like this guy in this
Yeah,
article.
You two can look like we'll put him in the.
He's gonna be in the show notes.
show notes. But
And someone has never looked so stylish in a snuggie.
so let's just talking about this picture for a moment. Like this guy looks like the most like stereotypical like stock photo guy ever.
Yeah, it's
like
almost
it's
like
a
they
white
just
background.
photoshopped
He's
his
on a
ta-
white
his head.
couch. He's holding what looks
a
like
remote.
It's a remote, but it looks like kind of photoshopped because
It
there's like a
does,
border
actually.
around it,
Yeah,
which is weird. Because there's
I
like
think he's photoshopped. I think they
no,
took.
there's no way he's photoshopped.
I
Because
think they took an average, like just. A
see, I think they had a
normal
picture
person.
of him sitting down, and then they superimposed him on a couch. So like he was, but that
Maybe.
wouldn't make sense because of the arm.
Yeah,
Like they'd have to really do like
I
some
think-
crazy Photoshop.
I think that they just photoshopped his face onto somebody's body.
Oh, like they had someone else's model, and then they just got
Yeah.
like a face model
And
and,
then they
took a
just
picture of that.
they just Google searched who's the best like gel haired dude. Generic.
Who's like the most
generic
like white
dude.
bread looking guy?
He literally is the most white bread guy that you could imagine.
Like let's get him and
Just the most
put him
generic
on there.
human being on
Yeah.
the planet.
hi, my name is George, and I like the
John
Snuggies.
Smith. My name is John
My name is
Smith.
John Smith, and I
Uh,
like watching TV with my Snuggie.
and my remote always has a white glow around it.
Yeah, which is weird because it makes sense like if it was like just on one side, but it's on like
It's
the
on
top and the
whole
bottom.
thing, which makes me believe that it's photoshopped.
Yeah, but then you could also argue that it's like the lighting, but that wouldn't make sense
I don't
because
know
of
if
the
the
way
lighting
that the
would do
jack.
that.
No, because of the way like the Snuggie's lit, because it has like lighting on the front. So it would make sense for it to be on like the side of the remote, but it's
But
also
the-
like on the top and
Maybe
the
there's like
edge
a
of it.
bar. You know how this is like the tartan coloring? Maybe there's a bar that like wraps around right where the remote is on the bottom that makes it look like there's light emitting from it.
It might be like the buttons are elevated. And that
Well,
might
on the
be it.
top, I think it's the buttons, and then on the bottom, it might be just the color differential on the Snuggie is making it look like it has like a glow around it. Like, because if you look
Maybe.
at the Snuggie, you see how he has that dark splotch right behind on his like arm.
Yeah,
That's probably changing the color. Like that probably ends, and there's a little bit of that light blue in between, and then that light blue, because there's so little of it, it just looks like the remote's glowing.
probably so. Maybe they just.
This
took
is just a
my
strange
thought is
photograph.
maybe. Yeah, well, I think it's. My thought is maybe like this is just a normal photograph, but then they like color corrected it so that they could
Yeah.
get the color of the Snuggie better.
Yeah,
And to that extent, they messed up like the more plain colors, like the solid
Mhm.
black,
and made this guy look like he's
Oh.
totally photoshopped.
and they made it. I think it's just because it's like too perfect of a picture is
Yeah.
what makes it wrong. And I
Too
don't.
generic of a human being.
So it's possible that it is just a normal picture, but it's also looks like that they did like they brightened it up.
Mhm.
Obviously,
Yeah.
seems like to me. I'm no expert on this, but
But would you rather Snuggies be considered clothes, or would you rather them be considered blankets?
I think it makes more sense for them to be considered blankets because, like I said, they're blankets with sleeves. They just have a sleeve to them, and they aren't really like clothing. I imagine is something you can go out and wear,
Mhm.
like sweatpants. Like those are kind of pajamas, but
Yeah.
you can still wear those. They have like bathrobes, which I guess I'd still consider those clothes, but they have a specific purpose for them. Whereas Snuggies, they don't really have like an intended like area to use them.
Yeah, I guess I would honestly rather Snuggies become clothes
So
under
you're on
these
the other side of
contexts.
this.
No, I mean I agree. Right as they stand right now, they'll be blankets. But as Snuggies evolve, the next evolution of Snuggies should have clasps. They should be clothes.
So you want a
Because-
clothing Snuggie.
Because then you don't ever have to take the Snuggie off. Once you like get all set up in your Snuggie and you're nice and comfy, if you ever have to get up normally with a Snuggie, it kind of like drapes around you and kind of falls off on the back. But if you
Yeah.
like had clasps back there, then it would never fall off.
See, that's what robes are, Andrew. That's what I'm
But
trying to
they're
explain
not
to you.
Snuggies.
They're the Snuggie like fake like
I want
polyester or
well,
whatever.
I want the
That's not the material, but
I want it to be a blanket on the front. I
So you
don't
want-
want it to be a jacket or anything like
so
that.
you want the Snuggie material as like clothing,
Mhm.
is what you're saying.
Well, because it's like warm. So because it's like a blanket on the front and it's a solid piece of
So
fabric.
you want a coat then?
No. But coats like open up in the front,
I'm saying
So,
you
like,
want
they
like a
don't
Snuggie
seal-
coat, is
so
what
they
you're
don't
saying.
seal all the warm air in as you lay on the couch. But like with the Snuggie, what makes it amazing is it like traps all that beautiful warm air.
So like a sweater.
but the sweater doesn't cover your entire body,
But it
and no onesies.
okay.
No, I'm gonna say no on
Okay.
onesies.
Onesies are just weird because of the
The
like,
legs and the feet.
because it gives you feet. They're like wearing
Mhm.
pajamas.
Well, I mean, they
I
they
mean,
are
count-
pajamas.
They are pajamas.
But the fact that they like separate out both legs and then
Yeah.
you have both feet covered.
it's like you're wearing underoos.
Yeah, sort of.
And also, it's not as like loose fitting as. I guess what you're saying is you want like you still want the blanket part of it.
I want it to be like a blanket, but when I stand up, I don't want it to fall off. So
So you want a robe then? That's what
no,
I'm saying.
but the robe goes the wrong way. It's not.
How does it go the wrong
It's
way?
not well fitting on the front. So when you're like,
Have you worn a robe before?
yes, I have worn a robe before, and it's not as warm in the front as a Snuggie is, because Snuggies seal your entire front end, your entire front body, and then the couch seals the other side.
So you don't want a thing on the back for this?
No, I want it in the back.
So you want a Snuggie? You basically want a Snuggie and then a Snuggie on the back, but without the sleeves on the back?
No, you don't understand. I want a Snuggie as it stands right now, with little clasps in the back, or like Velcro or something. So
So
that
like a full body.
so that if I stand up, the Snuggie doesn't fall off. Does that make sense?
No. Because when you already stand up, it doesn't fall off.
But
When you
it
stand up wearing the
slowly kind
Snuggie.
of like falls off in the back, and you're not warm anymore in the back.
Well, just because you're like moving around and stuff. It's
Yeah,
not
but
because
if you
of
had
the-
clasps, you would always be warm in the back. It would trap all that warm air in forever. You wouldn't require the couch to seal the other half of your body. Because
Okay.
that's what holds in all the warm air, is the seal between the Snuggie and the couch.
That's what I'm saying. That's what robes do.
No, but robes open up the front. You still have those openings in the front, so the warm air escapes.
Not all the robes. You know, like
Most
Jedi, you know, like Jedi robes.
Oh, well, those things are like, those are cloaks. Those are more
Okay,
intense.
then what about a cloak? Like, could you not wear?
No,
like,
I
a
don't
cloak?
want to wear a cloak because those are
like
impractical.
a cloak with sleeves.
I don't want that because that's impractical. Because it's like,
Because the Snuggie's so practical.
because
What are you gonna be doing in a Snuggie?
Yeah, with a cloak, you have to like wrap it around your neck as well, and like the Snuggie is like, it's basically a backwards coat, like a coat that's backwards.
Yes.
Wait,
And you're just saying you want a back to that coat, to that backwards coat.
sort of, yeah, sort of.
What do you mean, sort of?
Like,
Please elaborate to me.
Because
in
the
de-
Snuggie isn't quite a coat. Like, it's
Well,
not quite a backwards
obviously,
coat. It's
but
a blanket
It's a blanket
that's
that's
sort
a
of in.
It's like if you got a backwards coat, but it was a blanket.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we've settled on that middle ground.
Yes, and so I want it to go the rest of the way, where they add clasps in the back, so that it is truly a coat blanket combo thing.
Yeah, so I understand your concept of.
Franken combo.
So you're saying just add Velcro to an already existing Snuggie.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, I understand that, but I
now
also.
you understand.
No, I've understood it. I'm just saying that I don't agree with you.
Okay. Well, then we'll agree to disagree on this matter, and I'll make millions off of my super Snuggies.
Well, you'll be knockoff Snuggies, so you won't make any.
Oh, that's true. I already told people not to.
Plus, you've already put this idea out there. so-
Dang it! Dang it! Everything's ruined.
Yeah. So basically, end of the story is Snuggies are indeed not clothing.
Don't go to your local Walmart in just a Snuggie.
Don't
do
go
it.
anywhere in just a Snuggie, unless you're like going from your bathroom to like your like bedroom or something.
In your house, doing stuff with Snuggies is fine.
In your house or like in your friend's house if they're okay with it.
Well,
Anywhere not in public.
yeah, just don't be in public with only a Snuggie.
Like I don't want to see someone
Snuggies are not clothes.
riding their bike with a Snuggie on, like riding down like the highway, like
The highway. That's an intense bike ride. But
they're
I
in
know where you're
Holland or
going with
something.
this.
But like going down, like biking along the trail or
As your
whatever,
Snuggie billows
as
in
your
the wind.
camouflage Snuggies flapping in the wind, getting like
Okay.
tracking mud.
Can I just say I don't understand camouflage Snuggies. What are you hiding from?
You're hiding from your shame.
like you're laying on a couch or your chair, which is not camouflage colored.
It might be. You don't know.
That's true.
They sell these things at Walmart. There's probably some people who
That-
have camouflage furniture.
That's true.
Or there's
I
some
shouldn't generalize.
or there's some little kid out there with like a, like I could imagine like as a little kid, like if you had like a camouflage beanbag,
yeah.
if you got
well,
one of those
okay.
and then hid,
But
like
bean
leaned
bags
against
are a
the thing.
little different.
Beanbags just suck as a whole.
Have you ever sat in the ginormous beanbag chairs though?
No,
Like the ones that are like almost 2-person size?
I haven't seen
Because
those.
those are amazing. Those are the only beanbags anybody should be buying unless you're like 2 years old.
Or if it's a beanbag chair, but at
Although I
that point
don't
just buy a
think-
chair.
I don't think you're supposed to be having little kids with beanbag chairs. I think there's a suffocation issue there or something like
Yeah,
that.
because you get covered in
Well,
it,
if it's too heavy for them to lift back up off their
Yeah.
bodies, then they're done.
and then they suffocate.
Yeah,
But
that took a dark turn.
yeah,
The giant beanbag chairs,
yeah.
those things are awesome because they're so massive. You're just like being encapsulated in those beanbag chairs. It's just a shame that they're almost as expensive as a good chair.
Yeah,
So there's no point to buy that.
because you
over
can
a
just
normal
buy
chair.
you can either buy like a couch or you can buy one of those giant beanbag chairs.
Yeah.
But beanbag chairs are so inefficient in their like size,
Like-
like the shape.
They're good in very certain circumstances, like if you're gaming or watching a movie where like you want to be kind of
And you're in a
level
very
with the
casual situation,
Yeah,
and
and you
level with the floor.
well, you want to be level with the television, maybe like your
Yeah.
television's a little low. Whereas, so it's a very specific scenario. Whereas couches are basic. Couches and chairs are useful for like 99% of the cases.
For when you want to do something practical. Beanbags are for just you want to do nothing.
Yeah,
They're good
but-
for lounging around, but that's
so
about
like
it.
if you had a giant beanbag chair that was cheap enough that you could have both that
Yeah.
and a couch, then that's the ideal circumstance. But but at that point, you have a good couch probably. What's the point of the beanbag chair?
This is somewhat off topic, but I'm gonna paint a picture for you.
Okay,
So
paint a word
imagine
picture.
you're going to your girlfriend's house and
Yeah.
you're about to head over. You're gonna hang out for a little while, and you
Mhm.
walk in, and all of the furniture is beanbag furniture. So the chairs have been replaced with beanbags. The tables have been accustomed height-wise to fit the beanbags. The couch has been replaced with a giant beanbag chair. Everything that you can imagine that you'd like sit on or like lay down on. Like the bed is just a
Is a
giant
giant
beanbag. Like cushiony beanbag or water bed, whichever you prefer.
Well, it'd be a beanbag because
It'd be a
everything
bean-
has to be beanbags.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. I paint in this scenario that is definitely going to happen at some point.
Okay.
So what would your reaction be if you walked in and she was like, "Oh yeah, I got some new furniture. What do you think?"
I would
And
see.
and all of the furniture,
would be
she's 100% serious.
I would be so fascinated with this idea that I would go for it for a little while. I would be like, all right, this is something no one has probably ever tried before.
Every single
Let's see
piece
what
of
happens.
furniture is
And then
beanbag.
after about 4 hours, I'd realize how awful beanbag chairs are at 99% of things.
Well, you try and sleep on the beanbag bed, and you'd like start like. you'd,
Okay,
like,
so that's the one thing that I think might actually be useful, though. Like, have you ever tried sleeping on a good-sized beanbag chair? Because
I
it's
haven't
not
tried to
bad.
sleep on it, but the ones I've been on are usually pretty bad because
It's-
they're like the styrofoam
If you have
ones.
a good,
which kinda
if you have a good beanbag chair, it's almost like laying in a hammock. If
Yeah.
it's big enough, if it's not big enough, you're gonna have a bad time.
That's the thing. Every beanbag chair that I've been in has either been too small or the
Mhm.
beans have kind of worn down to the point where they aren't comfortable.
Yeah, where they're not comfortable.
where it's a flat beanbag.
Yeah,
So that's been my issues with
Mhm.
beanbag chairs.
like beanbag chairs are a cool concept, and they serve a specific purpose. It's just other things.
It's a very,
fill-
very specific purpose.
yeah, other things fill that purpose
And
just
other more
as well.
other more practical things fill the uses of beanbag chairs.
Yeah.
So
I think there's the one brand I'm thinking about, I think it's called Sumo chairs or something like that. And they're those ginormous beanbag chairs. And they're actually designed for two people. You use them instead of like a normal couch.
yeah,
I'll include that in the show notes. It might not be Sumo chairs. I'll look in the show notes and you'll see it.
okay.
But
But still, that's like I just feel like having a
What's the
house, like
point?
walking into a house full of beanbag chairs, I would immediately be like,
Question
what
their
is I
sanity.
would immediately question my sanity,
Like,
or the sanity of the people who were living there.
yeah, it's like those people who have plastic wrap over like all of their furniture,
Over
not just
everything.
the couch. Because sometimes I can see the couch.
Sometimes I understand the couch, like if you have like a pet or something, but
Yeah.
I've seen like I'm
There's
sure
some-
we've seen people
There's
who have
some
like
people
on their like counter, not
on
like
everything,
on everything.
like chairs, tables, everything has like plastic wrap on it. It's like, how do you live? How do you do anything?
Everything is plastic.
Everything is plastic. You can't.
Well, everything's
slide
normal,
off.
but you just have plastic on top of it.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it's one thing. Like, if everything in your house like is kind of plasticky, like
Mhm.
that kind of makes sense. There's a like old style philosophies, like the '60s was like that
Yeah.
a lot.
Well, you wanted to protect it because you had this cheap plastic material that could fit on top. And then everybody realized that plastic material is awful to sit on. So, like, your living room might look spotless, but you never want to sit in
and
there.
you never take it off. Is the problem is people don't take it off.
Yeah.
So the point of the furniture cover is that you have it covered when you aren't using it, or if
in theory.
you don't, or if you don't want like a pet on it and you don't
Mhm.
want it to get messed up if something happened on it. Like if you have kids and it's a
Mhm.
really nice chair, you don't want to spill it on that, and they can sit on that and play with that. But when they're done with that, you're supposed to take that off. The
Yeah.
problem is people don't take that off.
And then
So-
you try to sit on the couch and you slide straight off. Have you ever tried sitting on a couch that has plastic?
Oh yeah,
cover?
yeah, I've
you
done it
just
before.
go whoop.
It doesn't. You don't sit on there. You have to plant yourself on there and stay in
Firmly.
that position, or else you will start slide off.
You
And
will-
even then, you will slowly kind of like slide in your seat and like
Yeah,
shift.
it's slow enough that you don't realize that you're sliding off. and
Gravity
then-
slowly starts to affect you
yeah,
because you're sinking into the cushion still. But because
Mhm.
if you're at the angle that you're sitting in, because the way that the sitting works,
yeah, and then there's the plastic.
there's the
and
plastic there, so it becomes a slide.
Yep, and
So-
then you're done. You're not sitting on that couch anymore.
Yeah, which is not ideal, considering you want to be sitting on couches. So, moral of the story is basically, actually, before I conclude this, what are your thoughts on those like glove chairs? You know how it's like the baseball glove as the chair? Like
I've,
it's one of those
okay,
giant
I've
ones.
never seen one of these chairs in person.
I've seen them in person, but not in people's houses. I've seen them like in stores and stuff.
Yeah, well, they make sense in stores because it's like a novelty thing. Somebody, like a little kid, could go sit in it. But there's
I'm
no,
saying like for sale. in
there's
stores, like in
no
Walmart and stuff.
practical reason for having a glove shaped. Like people are not ball shaped. As large as some people can get, they are not ball shaped. They will not fit properly in that chair.
Yeah.
It is not designed for human use. It is designed for use in catching balls.
sports.
Yeah, sports, not people sitting.
No,
You don't know. That's not how it's supposed to work.
not at all.
It's not how any of this works.
Just like the Snuggie, how it doesn't work as clothing.
I wish it did, though. Eventually. In the
Mm,
future. In the year
maybe.
2180, Snuggie has evolved.
See, I don't want to see your idea of the Snuggie where it's Velcro in the back. I don't
Mhm.
want that considered clothes because then you have people wearing that to like do stuff. Like you have
You
then you
know
have
that-
people in my situation like before where they're
Mhm.
riding their bike with the Snuggie with just a little tiny bit of cheap Velcro on the
You
back.
know somebody on college campuses have probably done it already, though.
No, I'm saying someone's
like,
done it.
I'm
someone's,
sure people have gone to class.
someone's
in-
worn
you-
just a Snuggie before. That is a definite
like
answer.
in college campuses are a breeding ground for strange ideas like that.
Yeah. Strange nonsensical ideas that actually somewhat work.
Well, they
Sometimes.
on paper they sound like good ideas, and then they do it, and you're like, "This is stupid."
On paper and in personal execution, you're like, oh, this is good, this is fine. Like I'm
Mhm.
enjoying this, it's fine. But then you're a person wearing a Snuggie in
Yeah,
a lecture hall, and everyone's like, what the heck?
yeah,
is
you're
going
the
on?
only person.
that
with
guy.
This, yeah,
You
you're
become
that
that guy.
guy who decided to wear the Snuggie to class.
Which you might be enjoying it, but
Mhm.
like ideally,
If
like
you're gonna do that,
socially-
go sit in the back row so nobody has to like gawk at you.
Yeah. The only reasonable time that I would allow that is if that person were to walk in and immediately fall asleep.
Yeah,
Like
so
if
you
they were-
know that they're
so
the
that you know that
slacker.
they are only there to sleep,
Yeah.
and that they brought their Snuggie for a specific purpose and they know what they're going to use it for. But if like, you're like talking like clothes wise, like oh I'm
Mhm.
going to walk to class, like get a coffee and then head
in my snug.
and then get home, yeah, in my snug, like that's not going to work.
Yeah, no.
So that's just my 2 cents on that. But still, I'm glad they're blankets and not clothes.
All right, transitioning away from something that has no technological basis into some technology. So I've been flip-flopping around phones as of late. For a few years, I was on Android. I'm trying to slowly make the transition back to iPhones, mostly because of iMessage. I think iMessage is amazing, and there isn't anything that I've found that's quite as comparable on Android.
I mean, because most of the people you know. Like everyone in our family uses iPhone iMessage.
Mm-hmm.
Most of your people you know use
It's
iPhone iMessage because iPhone is just so prolific.
yeah,
And
it's
how many people use it?
it's convenient.
It's convenient. Yes.
Well, and it's also the features in it are actually way better than some of the alternatives. Like when I was on Android, I was using WhatsApp because that was a good way to message between multiple types of devices. But they don't have any like sticker or application functionality like iMessage or even like Facebook Messenger has. I don't want to use Facebook Messenger though. That thing kills your battery like nobody's
Kills your
business.
battery, and it's Facebook, which I don't like.
Well, they added end-to-end encryption, so Facebook now can't like mess with your messages and like
Well,
read them.
Well, I don't mind that per se, because I
Mhm.
mean, when you use any sort of app like that, you're kind of exposing yourself
Well,
to
it
that in the
depends.
first place, or at least like that's kind of like intentional.
I've been
Like, or
looking
intended
more
usually.
into the way encryption works on certain devices like iMessage, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and then there's a few specially encrypted messaging applications. All of them have end-to-end encryption, so the companies actually can't mess with your messages. The only thing certain companies have is at the most they'll have metadata, so they'll be able to say like, if you swap phones, as long as you log in on your account, you'll have all of that information. Again, we can't read it. We can't read it because it uses your device information, your phone number or whatever, to verify these kinds of things. And so it's perfectly secure. Not perfectly. It's still crackable, but as of right now,
It's fairly secure.
nobody knows if any of these systems have been cracked. And in theory, none of them have, because otherwise we'd probably have more people noticing that the little check marks on their thing aren't loading properly. But getting back on track, I've been watching the rumors for the new iPhone, and I kind of wanted to get your opinion, but there's a new rumor that just kind of came out in the past like day or two where the iPhone 8 or whatever it's going to end up being called is actually going to get rid of the home button, and it's going to swap. Instead of having a home button, and in a traditional iPhone, it has a big like bottom area where you can't touch anything.
Yeah.
It's going to replace that whole bottom area with screen. So you'll have the touch ID sensor integrated into the screen. Apple currently has a patent for it, where it can actually read your fingerprint through the pixels on the screen, and so in theory, you would lose a physical home button, but you'd get a software home button. And this whole bar along the bottom of the phone would become a function bar. In the show notes, I've included a link, and they call it something different. I don't remember right now, but this function bar would probably work in a lot of similar ways to the function bar on the new MacBooks. Have you seen those?
I have seen those. So it's like you can program them individually, and you can also apply like screens and details to them if you carefully program them.
Instead of having your function keys that are very limited on what they can do, they swap that out with a function bar, which has like software-based buttons, which are infinitely upgradable because it's all software and pixels.
Yeah.
This is why I like certain features of Android, because some Android phones actually have all the buttons software side. So as Android progresses and becomes more and more advanced, the hardware kind of stays in line with it. Like you can have old hardware, but if our hardware was still pretty fast, like we're seeing right now with Android phones, they've gotten to kind of like a threshold. They're all fast.
Yeah.
Like even the lower end phones are pretty darn fast.
Yeah, especially
and
now.
If everything's in software, then the hardware doesn't need to be improved. And because there's none of these weird buttons that are being used, then you just upgrade the software buttons to be whatever the new interface is.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I like the idea of software buttons. Like, I think the fingerprint scanner, like, that's perfectly, I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But not having that physical home button is going to be such a big kind of gap for people to get used to.
Well, I mean, in theory, they could still, like, make it in the... It's kind of like on the new function bar, the escape
so
key.
it's still going to be a section, so...
In theory, none of it's confirmed, but
Yes.
in theory, you could still have, like, a picture of that home button on your screen. If you remember, the iPhone 7s don't actually have a clickable button now. It's just a solid piece of glass that has the Force Touch on it. So it doesn't click. I don't know if you've tried the new iPhones before. They don't click. They vibrate using a little motor underneath to simulate the feeling of a button being clicked. But if in theory, that's the first step to them completely getting rid of the
Okay.
the home button, and instead replace that whole thing, as you can kind of
It's
see
a
in
full screen.
this article. Yeah, to being a second screen on the bottom almost.
Okay.
So
See, I can understand that.
so like applications could potentially use them to add extra buttons. So like your browser, when you pull up the browser, it might
Yeah.
have like the back and home button.
Might have your tabs down there or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Safari might have functions in there because it's a usable screen, but you do what the touch bar does on the new MacBooks,
Yeah.
where you're limited still. You can't like run your, well, people have figured out how to do it, but you can't run your entire like web browser right there. You use it as your back button, your home button, your video scrubber, that kind of thing.
Okay, so I think I'm more okay with that. I like
Mhm.
that idea of having a separate area where you can use that as its own touchscreen area, separate to your actual normal touchscreen.
Yeah.
However, I feel like the problem with that is basically with that button sort of like the problem with that is I feel like that has to be separate because if you have it the same as your normal screen, then it's just going to be like if it's just going to be one solid screen and it's going to be weird just because you'd have to separate that out between knowing where your home button's going to be because you
Mhm.
still need a place for that to be.
Yeah, but
even
what if
if
it's
it's in
like
the
a software
software.
thing?
It-
What if it like is in the old iPhones they had the little like rounded square on the home button. The new iPhones don't have that because they added the sapphire glass over the Touch ID sensor
Yeah.
so that they could easily read that. But in theory, they could add that little square back, and it's a little button, a little like icon on the bottom of your screen that you always have on there,
Yeah.
and you can press that whenever you want to, and it does exactly what the home button does. But
Yeah.
because it's in software, they don't have to worry about replacing them if they break.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about if they were to ever get rid of them and do everything and do everything using swipes or something crazy. Whatever Apple decides is the new thing.
See, I'm fine with that idea as long as there's something that is permanently there to separate it from the rest of the software. Because I don't
Okay.
want I just don't want a blank screen there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want just the screen and no buttons and no anything to show that there's anything visual on there.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not, then there'd have to be some sort of weird tap system
Yeah.
that you'd have to use. Like I'd have to like double tap the screen in order to press the home button, for example, or like
Yeah.
tap like the four corners in order to do it, or something
Yeah,
weird
or
like
use,
that.
like, some
which I
weird
wouldn't want.
force touch.
Yeah, I would need something visual to look at and to identify with touching to getting back to the home button, which the button
Mhm.
works well because it's a physical thing, and it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily need to be physical. I just
Mhm.
feel like having an option something that is permanently there to show what you can do
Mm-hmm.
to get back to where you need to go.
That's the one thing that I think is, and it's always been genius about the iPhone is Android has a weird thing where, and this is part of why I think Samsung is so successful, is in Android you don't really have a way to back yourself out of something easily. Like if you get way deep into an application or if you find yourself like down a rabbit hole on like something and you don't know how to get back to the home screen on Android, sometimes it's difficult to figure that out. I mean, some people will say, oh, no, it's not that difficult. And I agree it's not the hardest thing in the world. But for some people who aren't necessarily like super technologically savvy,
It's something that takes a while to figure out and
yeah, if you just
system to
have
learn.
that, if you just have that physical home button always there, people know like this thing that is in the real world, not in software,
Yes.
will always back me out of trouble.
See, that's what computers do the same thing with the X button on
Yeah.
your computer. I feel like if they had just a permanent X button on the thing that took you to
Mhm.
the home screen, I'd be perfectly fine with that. But
Yeah.
they need something that is permanently there and that is universally understood that this will take you to the home
Yeah.
screen.
This
And that I'm fine
saves
with that
you.
being software as long as there's something that is permanently there or that is constantly there that has to be there
And is recognizable.
and is recognizable so that you know how to get where you need to go. Like for example, like some like Android phones have a
Mhm.
physical back button. And
That's actually part of the software. There's in Android it's back, home, and I call it hamburger button, but it's your multitask button. It
Yeah.
used to look like a hamburger. It was like multi-layered boxes.
yeah.
So it's kind of hamburger shaped. But that interface, I mean, the way it's handled is it's like nice and it's easy to figure out. But sometimes that interface disappears because like the application takes over the whole screen. Sometimes that happens. And then I've run into situations where you look at it, you're like, you hand the phone to somebody or you do something and you're like, I don't know how to get out of here. And then you're like messing around and it doesn't show up and you're like, well, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
What do I do now? And you turn the phone screen off and you turn it back on and it shows back up and you're like, okay, quick, get out of here and
Yeah.
figure out what's going on. And that's why Samsung, I think, was doing really well with their physical home button. I think I read somewhere that they're also going to get rid of the physical home button
Yeah.
for a similar thing to what Apple's planning, or at least what this says Apple's planning. But having that physical home button on the Samsung phones, that helps you a lot because you're because Android can be confusing or overwhelming for some people. Now I have that same thing that the iPhone has. I have that escape, the way to get out of here, the get out of jail free card, always on the physical phone.
Yeah.
Which
I think that having the physical button is definitely helpful, and
Mhm.
it's so universally understood that pressing the big button on the bottom will get you back to
Mhm.
the home page, or it'll get you to where you need to go.
Yeah.
And I feel like having something constantly there would be perfectly fine and allow for something to be there, but something needs to be there so that people know, or else
Mhm.
if you don't have that, then I feel like having some sort of convoluted touch system, or like having to do like your fingerprint, like that would just be too confusing. I feel for like too hard to understand. Maybe like in a couple of iPhones from now, they could maybe do that, but the way that kind of culture is set up and the way that design works, that you need something that's universally understood, and if they don't have that, then that's going to be a major issue.
Then people might be up in arms, just like when they got rid of the headphone jack.
Yeah, but I still do think that the software, being able to have software for that, is very effective because that allows for more usability and allows for more function, but also gives you more screen space and gives you more actual ability to do a bunch of different things, whereas you're stuck with, you have a button that takes you to the home.
Yeah.
Whereas you can have, yes, I still want there to be a home button per se, but that can be software and you can add other things around that. So that's just my thought anyways, is just adding, just as long as there's something there. Like, the only issue is that because you always have to have something there, you can't necessarily do everything that you need to do because you have to program in a home button for every single thing.
That's one thing that, coming back to iPhone, that's one thing that I've actually kind of enjoyed is the things that aren't software, like having the physical like rocker switch on here where I can say, like, for me, you can set it to be multiple things, but for me, I have it set as volume and vibrate. So is my sound on, or is it on vibrate?
Yeah.
And having that physical thing there where I know that it is in vibrate. Yes. I know right now that my phone is in vibrate. I can see that the switch
is down, so it means I'm in vibrate. That is very helpful.
Without turning on the phone. That was one thing I didn't like in Android, was I had to go into my settings and be like, all right. Luckily, they made it easy for you to do that with the notifications bar. You could mess with all those settings, but it's just at the same time, you're like if you didn't think about it, you could have potentially turned the volume up on your phone when you need it to be silent.
Yeah.
And then because you didn't have a physical idea of what's going on, now that's something that could, as time goes on, be more and more archaic and be less necessary. But
especially now that we have things like the do not disturb thing, which is software related, but it does the same feature as it turns all your audio off.
It's just convenient.
Yeah.
Like having these physical things is convenient because it's one less thing that software you can't always watch.
Especially with audio, where it's something like if this makes noise, then it will distract, and I could potentially get ostracized for it. Maybe
something bad might happen.
Something will happen if I have,
like in the movie theater.
If my phone were to go off, and having to go into your actual software and double check, like go to your settings and move all the sliders down, that takes a lot more work. And even then, you might not be 100% sure because you always have that thought in the back of your head, like, did it actually do it? Is it actually working? Whereas with a button that's physical, okay, this has to be because it's in this setting.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes, like, going back to the movie theater example, if you don't have your physical outside switch to know I'm in vibrate or whatever, you have to open up the phone screen. And if you're in the movie theater, everybody knows you just opened up the phone screen, ruining the experience for everybody else. And now you have to go in, mess with everything, turn it on vibrate.
Distract you and everyone else from the movie.
And it's bright, and everybody knows what's going on, and it's an inconvenience. And all that is fixed by having some physical hardware. Now, for something like the home button, I think the home button is probably something that is fine to turn into software because the home button already only does stuff when you're in software. But when you're talking about something that's changing the way the phone works in an analog way, then you kind of want an analog switch for it.
Yeah. Like for a power button, you want to have that physical button, and for the audio, you definitely want a physical button because those are such ultimate things that you need. That you need a physical presence for. Whereas the home button, you still need some sort of visual presence to represent that, I feel. But I feel like it's not as important to have a physical button for that, and that you can do software, just as computers do, for example.
Yeah. Another thing that this article mentions, other than the higher pixel density on the phone, which I don't think anybody cares if it's a higher density. As long as it's like a good enough density, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But that's just another thing that they can add on their spec sheet. But the one thing that they mention is having a larger screen on the same size phone that we have now. So you have the same like 4.7 inch phone that we have today, but have...
Get rid of that excess black on the front.
Yeah, you get rid of the bezels and replace it with screen, and you fit more screen on the same size phone. I think, and so this actually ties into another discussion that I wanted to have with the new iPads. The new iPads, they're talking about adding a new size. They're talking about they're going to potentially add a 10.5 inch. It's going to fit right between the existing 9.7 inch and the 12.5 inch iPad Pro. And it's going to fit right in the center. But the thing that's interesting about it is they're talking about it'll be basically bezel-less. There's going to be no black bars around anything because it means they can use the old 9.7 inch body to fit a larger 10.5 inch screen.
So they don't need to have but that would mean they'd have to remove the buttons.
Yeah. So, and that's why part of why they think that they're going to remove the buttons is because they that's one thing that I think is very interesting about the iPhones is their form factor is kind of nice. They figured out a good body size. Yeah. Whether or not the screen is the right size is a whole other discussion. But having that body size, you can reach all sides. Like on the 4.7 inch one, the body is the right size that most people can reach all corners of the phone or most of the corners of the phone without doing some weird hand gymnastics. Now, for the iPhone Plus, the 5.5 inch screen one, has a whole other story.
It's more of a two-handed phone in my opinion.
Yeah, but now, what if, this is a what if, and I don't know if any of the articles talk about this, because they have this larger screen that they can put in the smaller phone, what if they just use that screen in both phones? So you basically have the exact same phone, you have the 4.7 inch and you have the Plus, and you just pick which one that you want. They're both identical.
They're both the same size, but they both have
the same
but
screen.
The screen is different.
They both have the same screen. It's just one has more bezel and it's bigger, and one is smaller, has less bezel, but it's has the same screen. It's still the 5. Let's say this is just throwing.
I'm saying the same
numbers.
Pixel density, but I'm saying there's more screen shown on there.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, what if you had the same screen on both phones? Like, you have your big phone, which still has the big screen, but it's a bigger phone. So some people like that bigger phone, bigger battery.
Okay. So you're saying the smaller phone has the screen of the big phone.
Of the big phone.
Okay.
Because they've gotten rid of the bezels.
Oh yeah. For some reason, my brain was thinking the opposite, where you had the small screen on the big phone, and you had a super large bezel, which wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, because this article mentions the screen being about 5.5 inches and potentially being on the small phone because they get rid of the home button and they can expand the screen out. So what if you took that, did the same thing, brought it over the big screen,
where the screen is the entire face of the smaller phone?
Now this is just completely conjecture because, of course, like from a business perspective, it would be interesting because it cuts down on the things they need to supply.
It's cut down on costs.
Yeah, they don't need to build two screens now; they can build one screen. But in terms of like sales, they probably would sell more if they had a bigger screen on the bigger phone. So they'd probably upscale that screen to be the right size.
It would make sense.
Same kind of ratios that they have for the current phones.
They almost would need to have another edition of each phone where they have the regular sized phone, like the regular phones with the regular screens, and then with the larger screens for each of them. Like if they were to do the larger screen on the smaller phone, that's the same size as the larger phone, then the larger phone needs its own larger sized screen, I feel like, because they want to tap that market.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd feel like that it's not necessarily necessary, but I feel
Mhm.
like the perception is I have a bigger phone, I should have a bigger
You should have
screen.
a bigger everything.
I need to have everything bigger. Whereas if I
Mhm.
have a smaller phone, I don't need everything bigger
Yeah.
because I got a smaller phone. But if I'm a bigger phone, I want the bigger thing. And if I don't have the biggest thing,
Then what's the point of getting the
then
big
what's the
phone? I
point?
guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can.
And there are people who are gonna say, "Oh, the smaller phone has the touch screen on the whole face,
Mhm.
but the larger phone doesn't. Why doesn't have that?"
Yeah.
And it'll just cause kind of
Now, as
disagreement.
for me personally, I think having as little bezel as possible on a phone is ideal. I want the future where I have just a pane of glass or whatever
That's my
in my
ideal too.
hand.
However, also I'm torn because my ideal future is that you just have pane of glass as your phone.
Mm-hmm.
However, I also feel like you do need to have a bezel so you have something to hold on to
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like with phones you either have to be holding it exactly square or
Yeah,
because your fingers will overlap, of course, and if
Yeah.
they're touching that screen, then the phone's gonna register
it's
that.
gonna freak out.
So
Yeah,
it needs some sort of bezel. Now I'm thinking maybe like
like
eighth inch,
like millimeters.
like maybe like eighth inch at most
yeah,
around the entire
like
phone,
like hardly
and that's
anything.
it. Yeah, but hardly anything, just enough so that it gets around
Mm-hmm.
your grip on the phone itself.
Yeah.
So,
Now, for the iPad, they're talking about a similar thing, especially with this 10.5 inch potentially taking up the same body as the 9.7, the old normal iPad size.
yeah,
Now, I think that's a thing where it's cool, and I like the fact that it'd be really awesome to be able to have this this big slab of glass that's just your computer,
yeah,
just kind of like. But because it's a big slab of glass, I need something to hold on to. So I don't.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like it's just a small bezel. Like I
Mhm.
still like the idea of I would like to have an iPad that is just a giant screen.
Well,
I would love that.
I understand that. And with phones, I think you can have a much smaller bezel than you should have on like an iPad, on a tablet, because a
Well, yeah,
tablet
'cause
has
you need
much
to.
more mass.
Yeah, you have to grab it like you're grabbing like a controller, where you have to have when
Yeah.
you're holding an iPad, you kind of have the pad of your thumb
Yeah.
holding that. So you'd have to have a bezel big enough.
Hmm.
Maybe if they did it like only on the sides.
Like they
Like-
just widen the screen.
Like if no, they keep like
Oh, you mean like make the
make
screen
make it like 'cause
wider.
yeah,
Like if you're holding it in portrait mode, make it wider, not taller.
yeah, not taller. So you can
Okay.
hold it on the side because when you're holding it on the side, because when you're holding it, you only
Mhm.
hold vertically. You usually only use like one hand.
Yeah.
You'll use
Yeah.
one
and,
hand to hold
well,
it,
and
and then
you have
you'll
the
tap.
bottom that you can hold on to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
I feel like there still needs to be bezel, but it doesn't need to be a massive bezel like it needs to be.
Yeah. I worry with something like a 10.5 inch and the 9.7 inch body because it's like there's probably barely any bezel, and sometimes I already think that like with the iPads that they have right now, some of them are hard to hold because there isn't enough bezel when you want to hold it in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
It's
And-
not nearly as big an issue as it would be if you didn't have any bezel.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
still.
So if they were to bring that down even more, I would get a little worried. I would. Now, all of this is still speculation. We don't even know when any of this stuff is even
The
going to come
iPhone
out.
7
So
came out
in
fairly
September, I
recently,
believe.
so like less than
Yeah.
a year ago.
6 months ago, I think.
About probably.
Yeah, I think we're at the halfway point for the iPhone 7.
So we aren't even close to the 8 yet. I don't think we're
No.
another at
No,
least
but we're in
year out from 8.
the prime analyst time
In the
of
prime
the
and
year.
speculation zone,
Yeah.
where nothing's been announced yet, but people have been talking about what they
Mhm.
want.
Well, and when you're as big of a phone company as Apple, there's bound to be some sort of like supply line leaks. Like,
There's a lot of people involved in that, and a lot of people looking for information on
Mhm.
that. So people are going to be digging for information, and there's going to be so many people involved, and so many sources that that Apple has to use as such a big company that it's easier to find stuff out.
yeah, and with I mean, even Samsung, they're the number 2 manufacturer of phones, if I remember right. Even they have had leaks with their kind of bezel-less. They are for sure going with basically its bezel-less design that
Yeah.
we were talking about, because they're also going to get rid of the home button
Yeah.
in theory, and so their whole thing, they're still keeping the exact same size phone as far as we know.
Yeah. See, I can understand
and
that because
everything.
they've done similar things, like with the Edge, for
Mhm.
example.
But they can't contain that kind of information. That like leaks have come out where people have shown that like the physical screen,
Yeah.
and you can actually see like how big the screen's going to be on that because they have the front glass.
Oh
And
yeah.
You're like, And I think it's only a matter of time before, unless Apple's been able to figure out how to like keep all that stuff under wraps, we might be seeing that pretty soon as they ramp up production.
That's true. So I feel like pretty soon we'll be seeing something involving that, some more definitive stuff. But as of right now, it's all still kind of speculation, and we'll have to see.
Another thing to speculate about is what this iconic piece that's being changed in Monopoly that you have on the list right here.
Yeah, so fairly recently, Hasbro came out and decided that they're going to release a new edition of Monopoly that is changing the pieces of the board. So online, they posted a website where people can vote for their top like 6 or 8. I don't remember the exact number. Top 8 out of like maybe like 50 different icons.
Oh, they have that many options.
They had a large number. If you look at the link that I sent, they have about like 40, 50 different, along with the original 8 that they had. They also had added about 48 to like 50 more. They added. According to this, they added. The contest kicked off on January 10th and ended January 31st, with voters selecting their favorite 8 tokens from a possible 64.
Some of these are really crazy.
Some of these include the crying face emoji, a computer, a T-Rex, a goldfish, a hashtag sign, along with a bunch of other weird things.
There's a lot of...
So
look at this T-Rex that they have on here. Look at how like realistic that T-Rex looks.
Some of these are very interesting in their design. Some of them are very simple, with something as simple as the pound sign.
What's the thing next to the camera? Is that a slipper?
Next to the camera?
Like a bunny slipper?
It looks like a fuzzy slipper.
Yeah, I think it is.
So they've added a bunch of different ridiculous ones. A lot of kind of like in your face, kind of like modern kind of things with the emoji and the hashtag. And they even have a Mr. Monopoly emoji as one of the options.
I actually really like that. I kind of wish that was an actual emoji, because that's kind of cool.
It's like a mustache with a top hat on his face. It's
like the emoji, except he looks like the Monopoly guy.
Yeah. So I just thought it was interesting that they're changing the tokens, and as of right now,
are they getting rid of all of them?
So they
or can you keep them?
So they still have the old edition, of course. So they'll have but they're adding a new edition, and that new edition will be changed. And the new edition, and from here on out, there will be the core 8 basically, and they're changing one of those 8. So.
Is it? Wait. Okay, so I'm confused. So they're only changing one out of these 8.
So what they were doing is they voted for. We are changing the Monopoly pieces. You have an option of 64 different ones. We are including the original 8 in this running for you to use and to change, and we will choose the most 8 popular.
Okay.
The 8 most popular ones. So, according to this article by CNN, Monopoly fans cast 4 million votes last month to decide which of the board game Classic 8 tokens should stay and which should go. And as of right now, they've announced that the thimble piece is going to be removed.
That one's for sure getting removed.
That one is going to be removed.
So even in the Classic edition, or
it's going to be removed from the next version of
from the future.
Of the Classic Monopoly. So any Monopolies that are made in the future will not include the thimble.
Even the Classic. That's okay.
Including the Classic.
Did they announce what it's being replaced with? Or is this part of the thing? Like the number 1 out of the next set is going to be chosen.
I believe that is the only one that is going to change. However, I am not sure.
And then so they have the 2 versions. They have the Classic, and then they have the new Millennials edition.
Yeah.
Of it. And so if they're going to get rid of the thimble for the Classic edition, then
they're getting rid of the thimble in its entirety.
Yeah.
So there will be, you cannot buy Monopoly anymore
with a thimble.
Once this happens with a thimble.
Yeah. So the thimble goes away and in theory it gets replaced with maybe the number 1 option.
It would be replaced with the number 1 option of the gold ones, because all of these new icons are gold.
Yeah. And then once they're gold, they go in, replace the thimble in the Classic edition. And then the new Millennials edition, or whatever they call it, is going to have completely new pieces.
Yes.
100% new pieces.
We'll have the old pieces as well as all of the new pieces.
Both editions in theory will have 1 piece in common. In theory. Like at the bare minimum they will have 1 piece in common. What do you mean? So like the Classic edition and the new and they all will have pieces in common, yes. They will have 1 piece which is which is whatever is replacing the thimble will be common between the 2 of them. In theory. In theory, yes. Okay. So. I just want to confirm that. I thought you were saying that the thimble was going to be the 1. So there will be 8, and the thimble is going to be replaced in all editions. So why the thimble? Why not like the wheelbarrow? Like Like thimbles are, I don't know. Like the thimble one is, I guess it's the most boring out of the bunch, but the wheelbarrow is also really boring.
The wheelbarrow is also boring, and I'm surprised that that one still lasted.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm trying to find on this article where the
Dude,
changed piece is. Oh, okay. So it may not be the only piece retired according to Hasbro.
Oh, okay.
So the thimble is the first one they have announced that will go. So it is possible that the wheelbarrow and the shoe might still have a chance to get the boot.
Okay. I see what you did there.
Yes, I did that intentionally.
It's a boot time.
But basically, they're slowly going to announce the ones that are not going to come out anymore.
Okay.
So they will slowly come out with the announcements until March
19th, I think is what it says. Yes.
Yes.
That's when they're going to announce everything.
I didn't read this article too thoroughly beforehand, so I didn't get the whole gist of it, unfortunately. But
okay, look at the list and go to the very bottom row right next to the smiley emoji. Is that sliced bread?
Next to the smiley emoji?
Yeah, on the very bottom row. I think that's sliced bread next to the shoe.
That's the surfboard.
No. The very left is the surfboard, but right next to the smiley emoji.
There's a smiley emoji, there's a wheel.
At the very bottom. No, there's another row below that.
Is there another smiley emoji?
Yeah, so there's the happy.
There are 4 different emojis. There are 5 different emojis on here, Andrew. You got to explain to me which emoji.
Okay, so on the top row, there's the crying emoji.
There's the crying emoji. And then there's the Mr. Monopoly emoji.
And then there's the kiss emoji.
It's the kiss emoji.
Then there's the winky emoji.
Okay.
And then below that, there's a smiley emoji.
That is toast. That is indeed toast.
That
next
is
to the
sliced
smiley
bread.
One. That sliced bread is an option.
Why? Like, okay, we're replacing the thimble. Let's replace it with the next most boring possible thing. Sliced bread.
See, I think their idea was that because there are some people who were like, "Oh, I like the boot because it's weird and it's quirky."
All right.
So they want to kind of cash in on that by adding that.
I guess.
What confuses me more is that one of the options is another shoe. They have multiple different ones. Like they have instead of the classic boot, they have like an UGG boot, and then they have like a fancy like dress shoe.
Well,
why would they change it?
So
to
no,
one
one's
of
a
those?
rain boot, one's a cowboy boot.
There's also a roller skate, but that's
and then
that's
there's
a different category.
weird. Then there's like the dress shoe. Yeah, like why have 2 shoes?
Why if you're going to replace the boot, why replace it with another boot? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I can see like a cowboy boot, but why like a shoe that looks almost exactly like the boot?
Why the boot properly closed up?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
I guess nobody's probably gonna pick it. Honestly, I have a feeling that we're gonna see a Monopoly edition with a lot of animals because they gave us a lot of options for animals.
They gave
and
a lot of
knowing
animals.
people probably want animals.
Well, as of right now, it looks like that they have the main. So the main 8 are, for those who don't know, they are the race car, the dog. It looks like they replaced the cannon with a cat.
Yes, they did.
And I feel like that was a few years back. And then they have the boot. Why they chose the cannon to replace?
Because it's a kids game. We can't have guns in
we
kids
have a battleship.
games now. But that one's specifically designed for.
That's also it's another board game, so they can get away with that.
Yeah.
So they have the car, the dog, the cat, the boot, the thimble. Although that is going to be removed. The top hat, the wheelbarrow, and the.
Well, it's not really. Also, the battleship isn't necessarily a battleship. It looks like a battleship, but you can also just call it a boat.
You could say it's just a boat
like
too.
you could just say it's a generic boat.
But then they also have a boat on this one too. They have a sailboat as one of the new ones as an option.
I don't think they were very creative with some of these options. I just realized there's a sandal in here as well.
There is a sandal.
That's weird.
A very poor looking sandal.
Yeah, it's really bad looking.
Because the metal on it is like instead of having like an upper bit where you put your foot in, that's like sealed off still.
Imagine if everybody just picked emojis and we just have Monopoly Emoji Edition.
I would be very disappointed.
Comes out with the Emoji Movie.
Oh no. The Emoji Movie looks not good. We talked about it before, but
it looks even worse and worse as time goes on.
Yeah, it's not looking any better.
Why are they switching to gold? Have they said why?
They did not say why. I think it's because they want to appeal to the newer generation and they want to say like.
Well, I mean, gold is shiny and cool.
Like people like gold,
and it's probably not that hard
because
to make it gold.
Yeah, you just get copper and.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's probably not that hard for them to make it gold, so they'll make it look even more premium.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going for. They want to look more premium, and they want to, because they want it to look kind of shinier. But in this article, I thought it was strange because they mentioned the fact that they changed it to the gold pieces, and like mention Donald Trump in that for some reason. Like
But
they
why?
say like to fit in with the style of like the Trump era or something. They're changing the pieces to gold. Like this is something that CNN said. This isn't what Hasbro said, but CNN
Yeah.
did in
That
their CNN
that
article. They
doesn't
mentioned
make
Trump.
sense to me why they decided to just throw that in there. Like,
This is an article about they're changing the thimble piece on the classic Monopoly board game.
yeah, so
Why do you have to add a political twist
Now,
to that?
unless Hasbro specifically said that, which I mean, there's no evidence to say that they did.
There's nothing that said that they did.
Yeah.
With the article, they have a video made by CNN that kind of gives an overview of the situation. That basically says what the article says for people who are too lazy to read and want to just watch it.
They're probably just too mad that Trump keeps calling them fake news.
Probably. So
Did you watch the Saturday Night Live?
I didn't watch this week's one.
No, but last
unfortunately.
week's the one where they do the press conference.
Yeah, with,
Where
Melissa McCarthy.
where he's fake news. Seeing, and they're
just-
in like the cage.
Yeah,
I was crying.
they're like, you'll see what I did to CNN, and it cuts the camera pans over,
we're
and it's
not
this dude in a
fake
cage.
news.
We're not fake news. He's like in like shambles,
Well, no, he's wearing a
So-
diaper, I think.
something like that.
Yeah, it was funny.
Something-
That we'll include that in the show notes.
That was a good SNL episode.
But
I was wondering, with these new emojis, or not these new emojis, these new tokens for Monopoly, which ones would you want?
I really like the koi fish.
If you could, so if you had, what
Or
would
whatever
your
fish
ideal
that is.
8 be? I think that's a goldfish.
Okay.
Because it's gold.
All
and
right.
it's
So
fish.
I kind of like
What
with
would be your 8?
with a new edition of the game. I kind of want it to harken back to the original one. But I want it to be kind of like a new era on these things. So of course I would keep the cat and the dog because those are like timeless. You can't really get rid of things like that.
I would keep the dog.
I would swap out the top hat. Actually, I probably wouldn't swap out the top hat now that I think about it, because it's Monopoly, and the top
Yeah.
hat's kind of iconic for Monopoly. The wheelbarrow, though, I would probably swap out with like the TV, or maybe even the cell phone, because I don't know, the wheelbarrow is really boring.
The wheelbarrow has always been incredibly boring, in
I
my
have
opinion.
no reason to choose that one.
I have no interest in
I would not want.
I don't think I've ever chosen the wheelbarrow.
No. I've
Ever?
chosen the thimble over the wheelbarrow
I have two.
because I don't like the wheelbarrow. So I would probably choose something more modern, like the television or the cell phone that they have on there.
What about the thumbs up? I would choose
I wouldn't replace the wheelbarrow with the thumbs up.
not with thumbs up.
Yeah. The race car, the old timey race car. I think that should be upgraded to the new like IndyCar race car that they have on there.
See, I think that the shape and like style of that old race car is so iconic that you shouldn't change it.
I guess,
Because
but
the race car is the most popular piece, and I
but-
feel like changing that to a new race car.
But
sure,
if they want to like just take this and update it to a new age and take the old Monopoly and update it to a new age, then it might be a good idea just to go for it. And it's a cool race car that they could pick, and I think that it would be effective. The only other option that I would think of instead of the race car would be to maybe swap it out with a plane.
that would be my thought
Because
too.
because cars and race cars, those are cool and everything, but planes, like other than me being an arrow, I think that planes might be more interesting to even just a younger generation because flying is something that's more common nowadays.
Yeah.
So as of right now, top hat, I'm just gonna say television, cat. Let's go with plane. Now that I think about it, so top hat, television, cat, plane, dog. I think that we should keep a shoe.
Why do you want to keep a shoe?
I think that you can make the shoe exciting again.
I don't think the shoe
Make
is ever
the
exciting.
shoe great again. We will make the shoe great again.
Oh no.
But I think that the cowboy boot might actually be a good idea. Like, because cowboy boots are cool. I wouldn't wear one, but they're cool looking.
They have a
Like
cool design to 'em.
Clint Eastwood style. They have a design to them. Way more exciting than the old style. And people might actually choose that because people like cowboy boots.
Yeah.
Throw that on a shirt. People like cowboy boots.
We aren't Rooster Teeth here.
And then I kind of like the Battleship, but it's a little dated.
I like the Battleship too. I feel like that's a good
Yeah.
kind of.
As
There's
a
a good
look,
shape to it.
though, I mean, it's a really iconic looking Battleship. It looks really cool, but maybe if they're looking to like change more out, maybe swap it out with the yacht. Maybe.
I'm saying like, I feel like making it modern is their goal, but
Mhm.
I feel like that they should keep a lot of like. I feel like they should do a mix of old and new.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they need to do
That's
everything.
one. That's one where it's iffy.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm most iffy
Because it's also a
on.
battleship. Because you can also say like, oh, battleships still
Mhm.
look like that. So
Yeah.
You can
No, I
argue that.
I agree. You could make a claim for that, and I think that
If I had to switch it to another boat, I would switch it to the sailboat because that's a bit more family friendly.
yeah, maybe, but this is Monopoly, so
That's true.
I don't know. The thimble though, the thimble absolutely is getting swapped out. So
That's already been confirmed. So
I
what would
wonder
you switch it to though? Because it could honestly go anywhere.
maybe we swap it out to maybe we swap it out with the rubber duck.
I'd be happy with that.
Because like it's still a household item that people can recognize, and people like prefer rubber ducks over thimbles.
Would that
but
be
it's-
too many animals though?
Because
Because there's already
that's
two animals
true.
there.
That's true. That might be too many animals. Then, so my second choice for that would probably be the Monopoly emoji.
The Mr. Monopoly.
Yeah, I think that would be my second
But
choice.
then there's a top hat already.
Yeah, but I don't think that it would be a bad idea because like emojis are prolific. They're really
Yeah.
you can't argue with that. That emojis are prolific. So like putting their mark on like emojis in the game,
Yeah.
like hearkening to that, I don't think that would be a bad choice. Now I do agree maybe having the top hat as well might be overkill, but I don't think it's that overkill
I don't think it is. I feel like it might not.
because
It's hard to
at
say.
the end
though.
of the day, people know it's an emoji of
Yeah.
the Monopoly guy. So what's
You could say it's top hat and then a smiley face.
yeah, something
So-
like that.
Yeah.
So that's my
So
set.
that's your 8.
I have the top hat, the television, the cat, the plane, the dog, the cowboy boot, the battleship / yacht. That one's iffy, and the Monopoly emoji.
Okay.
What would you change? What would you say is probably your set?
I feel like the ones that I feel like need to change are the wheelbarrow, the cat, the boot, and the thimble.
The cat.
I feel like the cat needs to change.
That's the newest out of the bunch.
That is
too.
the newest one.
Why do you want to change the cat?
I'm just not a big cat person.
Okay.
I just
So
don't. I just don't like
let-
cats a whole lot.
Letting out your
I feel
personal
like
prejudices.
that, and we already have kind of one domestic animal in there with the dog. I feel like it would either be you would have to replace either the dog or the cat, and I feel like because the cat's the newer one, and I've personally never seen the cat because all the people I know have older boards.
Yeah.
That I feel like that's the easiest one to go because I have no attachment to it.
What would you replace it with then?
Well, personally, I would replace the cat with the dinosaur.
I was gonna say, like, do you go crazy with it and go straight for the T-Rex?
I would go straight for the T-Rex because it's historic. It's something that people like.
Historic.
And also it's just that like the model for it is such a complicated and interesting
That is.
piece.
I doubt they would even choose that one because that's such
that
a
it would be
complicated
very
piece to make.
interesting to see that on the Monopoly board.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, there's a T-Rex attacking Park Place.
I like that they thought a tortoise would be an interesting one to put on the list.
I
Like,
feel like it's solid. It's a solid entry.
but
I mean, people have a lot of
tortoises-
pet turtles.
people like reptiles and have them as pets, but I don't think I've ever met anybody who would think playing Monopoly. Yeah, I want to be the tortoise. I want to be the tortoise right now.
Actually, I just noticed that there's a horse on here.
Yes.
I might switch the cat with the horse.
Okay, I can see
As
that.
much as I love the dinosaur piece, I feel like having that horse there, like
The horse might make more sense.
it
than
makes
the
a lot
dog.
more sense personally.
Not the dog. Why did I say that? No, than the cat.
Yeah.
Because like, well,
It
what
fits a
if
different need.
what if you got rid of both the cat and the dog?
I feel like you need some sort of animal in there just because.
No, I know. Like replace one of them with the horse,
Yeah.
like you said. Like replace the cat with horse. But what if you just got rid of
Oh, if you only had the horse?
like got rid of domestic animals and replaced it with whatever?
Well, then if you got rid of domestic animals, then you'd be left with the tortoise and the dinosaur.
No, horses. I mean, like domestic is in like
Okay.
ones you have in your house.
Okay, yeah,
Like-
yeah. I thought you meant domesticated.
Like horses you don't have in your house, so they can have multiple connotations. It can be like it's a race horse,
Yeah,
or it's
could
like
be
a
work
riding
horse.
horse or a workhorse or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the horse is such a universal thing that it could work fine.
Yeah. So then you replace the cat with that.
So
What would
let's
you
say-
replace the dog with though?
Thing is, I personally would like to keep the dog, but if I had to switch the dog, I would probably switch it with I would probably switch it with something like.
Would you replace it with another animal, or would you replace it with an object?
I feel like I would have to replace it with an object because I
Mm-hmm.
would like because I feel like you'd only have to have one animal if that's the case.
Yeah.
I feel like Monopoly works best with only one animal,
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
which that has no logical reasoning behind it, but
It's probably just like personal preference based off of playing the game for so long.
it's all
with
just personal
only
preference. Yeah,
only the dog for so long.
yeah. I would probably say like the bicycle
I think that's a good choice, actually.
because it still keeps with like because Monopoly kind of has this transportation sort of theme.
Yeah.
I feel with the pieces.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like it has the car, it has the boat, it has the shoe, the wheelbarrow.
Mm-hmm.
Those all are kind of objects that move and have wheels. The
Mhm.
dog, it's not
Except for the thimble.
a thimble and the hat, but the hat's Monopoly
The hat makes sense for
icon
Monopoly.
because of the nature of the game. And then I guess the thimble sort of does, but
It's weird that the wheelbarrow was even one of their choices in the beginning. Like, why a wheelbarrow?
I think the idea of like work and like the working class maybe.
I get maybe.
And that's my thought with the thimble is if you aren't going for the transportation idea.
Yeah, that's true. If
Then
you're
you
going
would
for
have
like
that.
what would the working man have,
Yeah.
and
that
then
be
what
the
would they
wheelbarrow
strive
instead.
for?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
Mhm.
So
But I would have to replace the wheelbarrow. I'm not sure what I'd replace that with. I'd probably replace that with the Mr. Monopoly emoji because that's such
Mhm.
a
I
interesting
really like
piece.
that one.
It's a good piece. I
That
like
should
that
be
one.
a sticker in iMessage.
It should be something. I need Mr. Monopoly emoji somewhere.
Just send it out to everyone.
I would keep the top hat. As much
I
as
think so.
as much as I like the Mr. Monopoly and I feel like that there's too much crossover with that, I feel like the top hat's still just a solid piece.
It's super iconic and it's a solid piece. I've chosen the top hat before and been like, yeah, I want to be the top hat today.
Top hat's
like
just a-
100%.
It's just fun to have.
Yeah.
It's fun to have around. So it's top hat, Mr. Monopoly, horse. I'd like to keep this race car. I really do like it a lot.
Like the old race car.
This old race car style
Okay.
piece that they have. I'd keep that. The dog, if I had to change that, I'd replace it with the bicycle.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd keep the dog.
Okay.
Although I still feel weird about having two animals in there.
Mhm.
The boot is just a weird piece in general.
What would you replace it with? Would you replace it with another shoe, or would you completely get rid of shoes? in
I would
general?
completely get rid of shoes in there because
Okay.
I feel like you don't need them. Because I feel like they're just such a
Yeah,
it's such a
I guess
weird
if you
kind
don't
of
want to
obscure thing.
harken back to anything or like drop images of the old.
Because I feel like if
Monopoly-
you're gonna change the pieces, you should change them completely.
Okay. So
I
what would you swap it out with?
I would
Something more
argue-
exciting, like the plane,
I'd bring
or
either the plane in, or
computer.
I'd probably either bring
or-
the plane in, or I'd bring the like gramophone in.
I actually really like that piece. I think that looks really cool.
Because it's a solid piece and it kind of matches the Monopoly hat theme,
Mhm.
which is the kind of like extravagance and
Well, it's kind of like it's
Yes.
like all the pieces you've chosen so far are sort of old timey,
they're old time. I like to keep the idea of old timey, but still
they're
kinda-
like still premium old timey things, like things that we would still see as like premium today.
yeah, like that's my thought behind it. Like that's my problem with the cat piece is that I feel like cats have always been around, and you can't say the animals new, but I feel like the
Mhm.
cat culture's kind of grown to the point recently that I feel it's not as much of a historic
Thinking
animal.
about it more, if you were to get rid of the cat, though, I think you would have to get rid of the dog. I think you would have to get rid of both. If you were to get rid of the cat, just because like I don't know, you have one domestic animal.
Yeah,
Like, would you really want to get rid of one for just no reason other than that you're getting rid of all domestic animals on the
Yeah.
list? Which honestly, I think makes more sense for Monopoly because it's like I don't know, thinking about Monopoly.
See, looking at the dog, it kind of makes sense to the extravagant sense because he's a lap dog. So you have this cute little
yeah,
lap
he's
dog.
like a little lap dog, but
extravagant kinda
still,
thing.
he's like, it's still just a dog. It doesn't
Yeah, it's still just
have
a
an
dog.
idea of wealth. It's like the thimble or the boot. Like they don't have any of this like idea of wealth.
They don't have this identity to it, either historical
Yeah.
or otherwise, which is interesting. So I'd probably change the boot either with that gramophone or maybe the trumpet because the trumpet is also just an interesting looking piece and because music.
That one's weird. It's like sunk into the
It's at an
The
angle, so
thing.
it's,
That's weird.
yeah,
I don't know if I like that. I kind of wish it was standing straight up,
maybe.
or at least just not sunken into the circle.
I think that might just be the photo that they have on there, but
Maybe.
honestly, I don't know.
Maybe it's just a bad photo of it.
Yeah.
But
And then the boat, I would definitely keep that.
okay.
The battleship I like. I usually
And
go for
then
the battleship if I can't get
the moment
like
of
the hat or
truth.
something.
What's
And
the
now what to
thimble?
replace the thimble with? This is the last
Monster
option.
truck.
I would definitely choose the monster truck. Although there's no creature in that monster
There's
truck.
no monster in that truck.
There's no monster in that truck, so I have to decline.
We're on episode 5, and we're still going with it.
Hey, we went one episode.
We went one
without.
episode,
We almost did, but we didn't.
but we're back on it.
Yeah. But I would probably
Curse you,
change.
Monopoly.
Yeah. I would change the thimble, honestly, to...
Hashtag.
I don't like the hashtag or the Monopoly symbol just because they're like text images, and I don't like that. Like the Monopoly money symbol doesn't work. That doesn't work. Same with there's like a cash, like there's like a present or something with the Monopoly symbol. I don't like that either.
I think that's supposed to be buildings. I don't know.
The like fifth one from the top.
Yeah, I see that. I
That one's-
honestly am not entirely sure what that one's
I don't
supposed
like it,
to
though.
be. Definitely
And
wouldn't
then
pick.
I don't like the Monopoly symbol because it's like the money Monopoly symbol doesn't work because
Mhm.
it's a letter. You don't want to play as a letter.
Maybe you.
I want to be the M.
Maybe
no one's ever gonna say
a
that.
Campfire. You could be a campfire.
I was looking at that for a while. I thought it was some sort of like weird like fish coming out of like something or like some sort of like plant. It
Yeah,
took me a
no,
while.
it's
Like
a
I had to like
campfire.
really look at it. It is a campfire.
It's a stretch.
I might for the thimble. I might do like a typewriter or something.
Typewriter? Really?
Maybe that or like a computer. I might.
They
do a
have the computer up there.
I'll probably
I
do a
would probably
computer
pick the computer
to
over
bring
the
it
typewriter.
bring something modern into it besides
Yeah.
the emoji.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Solid picks.
I feel like those are solid options.
I'm interested to see what the vote actually has changed, though.
Yeah, what the vote change because they've only announced the thimble so far,
Hopefully
but they've
Forge-
said that there might be other changes. Which, assuming that the wheelbarrow exists, there will
Mhm.
be more changes.
Hopefully, 4chan didn't get a hold of this. Otherwise, we're probably just gonna have like the lamest of the lame.
Yeah, we're gonna
Icons.
have the campfire,
The
the
hashtag,
hashtag,
the both money symbols,
both money symbols, the wristwatch.
boot. We'll keep
We're
the
gonna keep the
boot,
boot.
the boot and the thimble. Will
The
be
thimble's
kept.
already gone though, is a thing.
Oh,
That's
they'll
already been
vote it back
confirmed.
in.
You
They'll
can't
find
you
a
can't
way.
do that now.
The bow tie then.
They'll bring the fuzzy slipper in. 'Cause
Yeah.
that looks like a potato.
And the lifesaver. That one's pretty
The
boring.
life preserver.
Bread. We
The-
can't forget the bread.
Yes, the bread.
They would definitely. Actually, they would replace all the pieces with bread.
They'd replace it with the bathtub.
Oh no. Oh no. I actually thought about that. Like, what if you replaced the battleship with the bathtub?
I feel like they'd replace the wheelbarrow with the bathtub
Yeah, I can see that one.
because they're both kind of
Hmm
same.
I was just
shape.
thinking like water. For
No,
both of
water
them.
and water makes more sense, but
Yeah.
I feel like the wheelbarrow would be. I feel like there's not going to be anything mundane. I
Mhm.
feel like the dinosaur is going to be in there.
Yeah.
There's going to be like all animals.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm thinking about. What if it all ends up just being animals and then we end up with Monopoly Animal Edition for
Yeah.
like 20 years?
Which would be very unfortunate,
Yeah.
I feel. As much as I love the dinosaur piece, I also don't want a rabbit, a horse, a penguin, a rubber duck, and a
Rooster.
tortoise, and a rooster. Why would they have a rooster?
I would pick the rooster over the tortoise though.
I kind of like the tortoise more.
It's a cool tortoise, but I would
It's a
pick the
charming
rooster
little
over
tortoise.
it.
He's just
I don't know.
I'd love to have a little figure just
Maybe it's just
him just
personal
chilling.
preference, but I would choose the rooster over the tortoise.
choose the tortoise just because he looks like he's a chill guy. He seems like he's just there to be there.
You'd invite him to a party.
I'd let him hang out at the party. I wouldn't invite him, but if he showed up, I wouldn't kick him out if he showed up.
You wouldn't invite him.
I wouldn't kick him
Alright.
out. I wouldn't kick him out if
He's
he
a
showed
cool
up. is what
dude,
I'm
not
saying.
inviting him to a party though.
Hey, I'm just saying, you have those friends, right? Where you're like, oh, I know you and I'll hang out with you, but like I won't like
I
invite
don't
you.
know.
Like I won't do everything with you.
I
Like,
don't know.
I'll hang out with you sometimes, but not always. Like the tortoise is that kind of guy. Like I'll play him if like every other piece is taken.
All right, I'll just give that one to you.
Like if he's okay, thank you.
All right, so
There's a thumbs up one.
I kind of like that they're gonna be gold though. In all honesty, like the silver was cool, and I like silver, but in terms of like Monopoly pieces, I kind of like the decision to go to gold.
See, my only worry is that they will keep some of them silver and some of them gold.
I really hope they don't do
I
that.
hope they don't do that. I hope
No.
they either make them all silver or they make them all gold.
If the classic edition is all silver and then the new edition is like all
all
gold,
Like I would
I'll
love
be
to see
totally
that-
okay with that.
I'd love to see the top hat just plain in gold. Like I'm fine
Yeah.
with that.
No, I am too. I don't want them to keep if it's
And
all
not just because they
separated
say
out.
Donald Trump likes gold. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
It'd be
because that makes sense. All right.
stylistically, I think that either all of them should be silver or all of them should
Mhm.
be gold.
No, I agree as well. And
It doesn't necessarily need to be gold, but keeping them the same color.
just keep them the same color. Heck,
'Cause
they could make them
would
all
look bad.
like black or white or any other color, as long as they're all the same color.
If you made them all like a
That's-
poop brown, I'm happy with that. As long as you don't have like 3 silver ones and like 5 gold ones.
It's 3 silver, 2 gold, and the rest are poop brown.
The rest are poop brown.
As long as that's not the case, then
And then there's one that sometimes like there's a mystery bag where one in like every like 200 like ones
no.
will be like they'll all like you'll have one random plastic piece.
imagine if they added those like mystery bags to the game. Like,
Oh,
what
no.
did the thimble get replaced with? And it's just like completely random,
Yeah.
and it's a random color.
Oh no.
People probably wouldn't buy the game.
People would riot.
Right,
There'd be blood on the streets.
yeah. It'd be all over.
Cats and dogs fighting each other.
That already
End of the world.
happens.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying it would be even worse. They'd be fighting on the streets.
All right. So moving on to our next topic. I only briefly heard about this, but so Reddit is adding a new section to the default Reddits or subreddits,
Yes.
r/popular. If I remember right, this is going to be an aggregation of the top posts.
So it's going to work similar to, as of right now, Reddit has r/all, which will
Yeah,
be the top posts from all of their
all sub.
all subreddits. However, the way that this will be working is that it will pull all of the top subreddits from the default subreddits as well as specific subreddits that they have decided.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember if they have decided or that the site that the subreddits themselves have
Mhm.
decided to be a part of.
Yeah, I just know.
I don't remember the exact
I also know that
detail behind that.
that r/popular will be unlike r/all, which can have like inappropriate posts on there because it's pulling from all
Yeah.
of the most popular posts on Reddit. r/popular is going to be only suitable for work
It's
posts.
all safe for work
Yeah.
content only.
Yep.
So you won't get stuff from
because
weird.
like if you were
subreddits
just
like
a
that.
random person coming to Reddit to see what's going on and you saw a bunch of like just really inappropriate posts as being on the very front page, then that might not be the case, but there might be a bad day where Reddit's like that because it's a social platform where everybody's
Like I'll go on
upvoting.
I'll go on Reddit sometimes. I'll be on r/all. It'll be like
Mhm.
it'll be like 2 or 3 normal like posts, and then
Yeah.
it'll be like the Donald.
Yeah, and you're like, why is this stuff here? Like it scares new people away from the site, and
Yeah.
if they get rid of that, like I don't want to see any of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I have
Most people on there don't want to see that stuff. There's subreddits dedicated to not see it.
Yeah,
to
well, that's
stopping
why
us not
that's why I
seeing
don't
that stuff.
follow those things. It's
Yeah.
because I don't
It's
care
all
about.
internal drama.
Yeah, so I just so that's why I have the Reddit enhancement suite. It's a Chrome browser extension. I'll link it in the description, and it lets you filter those kinds of things out
Yeah.
because I don't want to see them. But the fact that Reddit is now making a conscious effort to continue doing that and make the front page that way for new users, I think that's really important. And they honestly should have done it to begin with, because
Yeah.
otherwise, there's probably a lot of people who tried to hop on Reddit but didn't want to mess with it because they saw some sketchy
there's-
posts.
Yeah, there's a lot of sketchy posts that get on there because it's
Mhm.
it's the front page of the internet.
Yeah.
according to
So like
the
people will be upvoting these sketchy posts because like maybe they're funny.
maybe they're
or
funny or maybe
something.
they just like it or something like that.
But if you're just a random dude coming to Reddit and you see that kind of stuff, then you might never want to come back. But
No.
if you never see that and you see the best posts that are all like suitable for work, they're all happy, good posts, then
Yeah.
you're more likely to stay with them, and you're probably going to make an account, which I think is one thing with Reddit is the more people that use Reddit, it's almost the better Reddit gets because
to some extent, however,
there's
you'll-
more good content coming in, and because there's a lot of people, you can filter out the bad content more easily.
That's true, but it doesn't always end up filtering out bad content. It just supports popular content. So
But so like the top things are, yeah, of course, they're the most popular things.
yeah, they're the funniest. They're
So-
like the jokiest memes.
Yeah. So
Like
sometimes
like you'll always get something from like r/dank memes or
Mhm.
r/wholesome memes. Or,
Yeah. Well, and they're sometimes because they're the most popular things, they're really watered down or like
Yeah.
they're reposts of the same things. But if you have a lot of people creating good content in Reddit and like bringing good content, then that's fine. That's it's moderators' job to make sure to like set those rules, like no reposts, those kinds of things, and enforce them. And that's why moderators exist on Reddit.
places for individual subreddits to monitor themselves
Mhm.
through the moderators, and then have the moderators, not necessarily have the moderators post them up,
Yeah.
but kind of manage that so that
Yeah.
posts can be successful.
Yeah, so that solid content gets brought to
Kind
the
of
top.
leave a little area, like imagine Reddit like a giant like factory farm, for example. So you
Mhm.
have each individual. So you have one section that's doing
Mhm.
like corn. You have another section doing like
Yeah.
beans and stuff like that. So each individual subreddit is that individual like section of that
Yeah.
factory, and each of those
And if the
are managed by
moderators
by smaller.
Yeah. The
groups.
moderators are preventing the bad stuff from getting picked out of the group, or preventing things that that might be good but have either already been posted or
Yeah.
are old, and
Or just
letting
simply
new
spam.
stuff come back out. And that's the moderator's job. Now, that doesn't mean that I think that Reddit should be like suppress,
moderated.
like they shouldn't be like censoring content, really. Like
No.
the point of Reddit is to be a forum for
express everything.
anything.
Every
Yeah.
opinion on the internet.
Yeah. So as
basically.
long as you're not like using Reddit as a way to attack other people and hurt them,
Yeah.
or do anything that
Do illegal
affects them,
things. Yeah.
affects other people in real life, as long as that's not happening, I don't think that the content on Reddit should be censored, because then you have like, if people want to see that kind of stuff, they can go subscribe.
It should not
to
be
it.
censored for an agenda. It
Yeah.
should be censored for like not necessarily for inappropriate content. It should be
Well,
censored.
there's
well,
like
it should be censored
there's
for
guidelines for like what is
yeah.
what's
There are
appropriate,
guidelines,
what's not.
and those guidelines should be followed, but it should not be to the point where it becomes censorship, where you're trying to get an opinion across on your site. Like,
Well-
oh, I'm only gonna show these.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only gonna show pictures of cats. I'm only
Yeah.
gonna have cat pictures.
Yeah.
And for all of Reddit, like that's fine for a subreddit, but if you replaced all of Reddit saying
Yeah.
you can only post animal pictures,
Yeah.
then that's that's
Yeah.
censorship.
No,
I don't want to see
don't
that.
get rid of those. But
Yeah.
and you don't get rid of those extra posts. So like, if I'm on r/pics where I can post any pictures,
Yeah.
like
Let me post any
if
picture.
everybody posted cat pictures, then of course all of it is cat pictures. But if somebody posts a non-cat picture, and that is
It shouldn't be scrutinized.
yeah, you can't just, if you pull that picture, if you moderate that and censor the non-cat picture,
Yeah.
that I think that's wrong, because maybe that non-cat picture is the first non-cat picture to be popular on r/pics.
Now, let's say you
So-
went to r/catpics and
Yeah.
you went, oh, I'm gonna post a picture of a horse.
Yeah.
Then people are gonna be a bit more. Then people are gonna say this isn't what this subreddit is designed for.
Well,
There should be other outlets
well, they
for
shouldn't.
people to
well,
create.
but you shouldn't take that post off, because the way the system works is everybody downvotes it, and
Yeah.
then it basically becomes irrelevant because it's so far down the list.
Reddit is designed so that you create a relevancy in
Yeah.
that you downvote a post so that less people see it, so that it becomes less important and
Yeah.
people kind of don't agree with it. It might be a good post, but if it's not in the right place, then it might not get successful.
Yeah, so then it falls
it
down
should
the
be the
list
job
of things
the
to see.
individual subreddit and the poster themselves to manage that, not
Yeah.
the company of Reddit.
No, I agree.
And I feel like with r/popular, it's kind of narrowing it down a bit so
Mhm.
that yes, it is kind of in some way censorship in that
I
You're
don't think it
censoring
is,
out-
though.
you're censoring out some subreddits because you can't see any nice paperwork.
I don't think
You
so,
can't
though,
see any
because it's not.
r/Donald, stuff like
Well,
that.
no, I don't think so, because what it's doing is it's just distilling down r/all. It's distilling it.
Okay,
So it's not like, okay, we're censoring it. That content still exists on Reddit.
that's true.
It's not disappearing off of Reddit because it didn't make
Yeah.
it on r/popular. It's just distilling the stuff
It's
from
just narrowing.
yeah,
their
so that people
defaults
don't
down.
see everything. They see a certain subset of everything, and then if they want to go see everything, they can go search for it and look on Reddit for those kinds of things. And
Looking at it that way makes more
I think
sense.
that r/popular is a great move on their part. Honestly, they should have done it before they did before they made r/all the
Yeah.
default one of the default subreddits. They should have had r/popular, because
I
they
think that
probably
it's
scared a lot
it's
of
important
people
that they
away.
have both. I think.
no, both should exist, but both shouldn't be default subreddits. Popular should be the default subreddit. All
Yeah.
shouldn't be the default subreddit, because all has everything.
Of course.
So if people want to follow all to see like what the
should
pulse
be able
of the
to,
internet
yeah.
is, then they
Yeah.
can. But if you're a new user,
Yeah.
you want to see what's popular.
Personally, I think that the way that Reddit should do is if you have a new account, that you should be posted on, that you should be able to see r/popular, and that you can go to any subreddits if you type them in. But the default front page should be r/popular if you don't have an account. If you have an account, it should be your front page, which is all the subreddits you follow,
Yeah.
and those as well as the defaults, and it shouldn't be any other things unless you. And then r/all should just always be there.
Honestly, I don't think that I personally don't think Reddit should have a subset of default subreddits. Sure, they're like interesting and stuff, but I think that kind of sets certain subreddits above all others. Like they might be good subreddits, but I think that kind of defeats. That's almost like censorship because because it's using their power to like promote a certain subset of subreddits, whereas something like r/all or r/popular, because they're aggregators, they're pulling from all subreddits, so you can see the most popular subreddits like pics or gifs or videos through r/all and r/popular without them ever messing with like saying, here it is, here's all of it.
I feel like that's a good point, but I also think that being able to have at least something, because when you first start on Reddit, you aren't really sure what to look at. So I guess from popular you can figure out, you should go to these subreddits, but giving someone those default subreddits. Now I don't like what the subreddits that they do have as default. I think that they should have very, very, very vague ideas, like I'm fine with having pics.
Well,
and
limit it. They have, you said, I think it's 50 default subreddits or something like that?
They have a number of default subreddits.
I'm not sure how many.
They have a larger number than there should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, there should, because there's some that are like.
There's some that are very specific, like r/aw. Like that's just all cute animal pictures, and that's a default.
Which is
very specific.
Not everybody goes to Reddit. Same with like news or world news or something like that. Not everybody wants to go to Reddit for news. Some people just want it for cat pics.
See, I feel like that. I feel like that it's important to kind of have something to start off on, though. I feel like that they should have like an r/news and r/pics and r/video. They need those as defaults. They don't need something like r/all because it's a specific genre.
That's why I think
having these broad general ideas, I think, works a lot better.
Well, I honestly, I would, instead of subscribing everybody to or having them as the defaults, I think they should just have like what they had in the past. I don't know if they still have it, where it's the subreddit of the week, where they just pick a subreddit and you can go down the list of all the old like subreddits that were like had a shout out.
Well, that's a subreddit, but the thing is, that's not a default subreddit.
That should be a default, because that one is, its job is just like r/all.
It's introduce people to new content.
It's introducing people to new content without forcing them to subscribe.
Yeah.
That's the thing I don't want Reddit doing, is forcing people to subscribe to certain things, because unless they're aggregators, because when you force people to subscribe to certain content, then you make it seem like you're pushing an agenda. If you have people subscribe to r/politics and not r/the Donald, then that somewhat pushes an agenda, because you're not showing any sort of like content that's on another level, that's on a different side of the opinion spectrum.
I mean, to be fair, r/politics was originally just political discussion,
but it's not.
Nowadays it has evolved into something that is highly liberalized, highly anti-Trump.
But no, that's the point that I'm trying to make, though, is
that subreddit has evolved to the point where it should be removed.
And they had to remove that as a default subreddit, if I remember right.
I think it's still on there.
Okay, but then the
Donald's been.
It is no longer a default subreddit. It was for a while, but it's
Donald
no longer.
never was. No.
I thought it was.
No, the Donald.
Okay, well they removed, like, the Donald is separate, but it has different ideals than r/politics. So why force r/politics on people?
Why support r/politics view if you're narrowing out and canceling out the opposite?
That's why
view
it'd be better off if we just didn't have these certain default subscriptions.
Yes, I agree that there are certain ones that you don't need. However, I feel like some that are very broad, like r/politics, the problem with that is that it's because of its political nature, is that it's become very one-sided.
Maybe.
And that should be removed. And that should be removed from the default subreddit list. It should still be there, but...
Well,
I feel like having something like r/pics is such a broad thing that because of the nature of images, like you can't narrow that down, and
I
you
guess
can't
I would just rather.
An opinion from that.
I guess guess it
I
makes
agree that
sen-
there should be aggregates
I guess
and
it
stuff,
makes
but I think that those
sense.
larger subreddits should work as aggregates
I guess it makes sense
because of the
letting
content they produce.
I guess it makes sense letting people like having all this content for people to see right at once, but if people are like if you're forcing a bunch of content on people, then maybe like however many subreddits we have right now that are default subreddits, if you have that many that you're throwing at people, there's a bunch of stuff in there that people don't care about. So I think the fewer the better.
Yeah, I agree with that.
For personally, I think I would rather have fewer. So I would rather not have pics, videos, those kinds of things. I'd rather go and subscribe to them myself. Have Reddit suggest them. Be like, here are some cool subreddits on like the sidebar.
Yeah.
But not force me to subscribe to anything, because then they're like, because it saves them and me any sort of effort. It's like,
that's true. I feel like that having a list is effective.
If I have a subreddit that I care about, I can go subscribe to it. But sometimes I need more content. So I look at that list. Okay, it's cool. And because they're not forcing you to subscribe, then people can't claim that they are pushing any sort of agenda.
Yeah.
They can't claim we're forcing a certain set of subreddits on you.
So you're saying like shift the default subreddits and don't subscribe people to those, but rather have a sub.
They should be suggested.
Yeah, have suggested subreddits on the side. I feel like that would work better actually, is if they had some sort of suggestions on the side where you have r/popular and r/all, which are the top posts from every subreddit or from a large list of
those are the ones people are subscribed
of Safe
to.
for Work subreddits.
Yeah.
And then those are the ones that people are subscribed to. Those are the most popular ones that other people are subscribed to.
Yeah, those are
Maybe
automatic.
from there you can find those.
Yeah.
You can find the things that are popular, not necessarily from a specific subreddit, but because those are the most upvoted.
Yeah, you have the aggregates, so you have all the good content from all subreddits coming to you as default, and they suggest you, like they have the list where they suggest you, but I don't want them to take the power. I don't want them to force a certain set of stuff on us on Reddit because of what Reddit is.
Yes.
Reddit is a free and open forum for all discussion. Yeah, it is a free zone. And they should have, and by having us auto-subscribe to a bunch of different subreddits and like changing those over time, I think that's way worse. That's taking power away from us.
Yes.
Whereas we should, with the way Reddit's already set up completely, they should be giving as much power to us. So like suggest things, but don't like throw anything at us. Don't force us to do anything. If you have us subscribe to things, we will get much more attached to Reddit because we have an attachment to the subreddits we've chosen.
Because we hand chose them rather than had a computer tell us.
You might have suggested it, but
Yeah.
because I clicked the button that says subscribe, I am more invested in it than if you saw auto-subscribe me and I just come in every day and I'm like, oh, here's some pics from r/pics. That's interesting. I had never subscribed to them, but I guess okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can also delete
No, you can.
your defaults, so that's also an option.
You can, but
the fact that it's suggests
that feels
in
like
the
feels
first
like an
place.
inconvenience.
Yes, it's a step out of the way that you have to take that.
Because somebody else
And
forced
it feels like you're missing out on something because you aren't subscribed to that default.
Yep.
Because it's something that everyone would be talking about because everyone is subscribed to it.
Yeah. No, I don't know. That's just my opinion on
I think that
on
the
the way the
introduction
Reddit should go. So
I think the introduction of r/popular will be effective and hopefully useful.
I think it should have been done earlier.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of the show. Like us on Facebook. We now have a Facebook group that you can like and subscribe to get updates on when these are posted on both SoundCloud and on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, anywhere that you get podcasts. Subscribe to us to get these episodes right as they come out. A like or favorite or star, whatever is available would be greatly appreciated. It lets us know that we're doing things right
or that we're doing things wrong.
Yeah.
So let us know that too.
Yeah. Feedback is always accepted. You can comment on our Facebook page. You can even comment on the SoundCloud videos. And we would love to hear what you all have to say. And with that, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the next one.